Hi everybody on the vinyl community, John back here again. As promised, I'm back and I'm going to show some 70s rock records. Got quite a lot of records to show, and I don't want to make this video too long because I know that often the longer the video, fewer people are willing to wade through it. So I'll try and keep it concise, but I do want to try and show a lot of records. I've got a lot to say. So these have come to me through all sorts of different places, channels, places I've gone to. I'll see if I can indicate, if I can remember each time I show a record. And I've had some pretty good luck this year, this spring summer period. Now the first album I'm going to show is this. This is the Sensational Alex Harvey Band, and it's the first album by him, or by the band, the Alex Harvey Band. I mean, he'd worked as a solo career artist before, and I think the band themselves had worked as a band before, getting together. And anyway, so this is the first Alex Harvey, Sensational Alex Harvey Band. I'd heard the name before, and to clarify, I picked this up at a car boot sale. I think I spent about £3 or £4 on this. Took a bit of a punt because, although I knew the name, it wasn't a band that I knew much about. Turns out, essentially, they're sort of a rock band from the UK, and in fact he's Scottish, in the time of glam rock. So often they are sort of labelled as glam rock, and I would say they've got a sort of glam rocky kind of feel. They're quite special because there's an element of theatre about their presentation and their style, and it's something that sort of runs throughout their records. Now, I was so impressed with this that I've ordered their first album on Discogs. Managed to get it quite cheaply, so it hasn't arrived yet. Now, there's something quite special about the way that Alex Harvey sings, and I recognised something about it. And when I was listening to him and just listening to the songs that he was sort of singing, I thought to myself, hang on, somebody else has obviously been listening to this before, because what I could hear, what I recognised quite clearly, was Bon Scott. And I thought to myself, could it be that early AC/DC had been sort of inspired at all in any way by the Sensational Alex Harvey Band? I don't know enough about AC/DC to know one way or another, but I would be surprised if they hadn't, because he has this, when he sings, he has a kind of a drunken slur in his sort of presentation. Some of the early songs that they play aren't a million miles away from AC/DC in style, although they're probably a bit more glam rocky really. But I would wager that there is some direct connection. I do know this, apparently, Alex Harvey, the Sensational Alex Harvey Band, were much more popular in Australia than they were in the UK, where they come from. Which, when I learnt that, didn't come as a surprise at all.
Suspender and high
I said, they're quite a unusual band, just on regular vertigo. Quite an unusual band in the style of the music they play, but the guitarist I thought is pretty unique. If you know anything about Alex Harvey band, you'll know exactly what I'm referring to. Now, I don't know if you can see, but I'll put a few shots up here so you can see, but this is the guy on the back of the record. And every time you see him photographed playing live with the band or whatever, he's dressed as a clown. None of the rest of the group dressed as a clown. It's just him. I mean, the others, yeah, perhaps they are slightly glam rocky, but he is dressed as a clown. And what it reminded me of, I don't know if anyone's seen Dodgeball. And there's a guy who goes to Average Joe's gym who thinks he's a pirate, and he goes around saying "Arr" all the time. And towards the climax of the film, Joe loses it with him and says, "You're not a pirate." And the guy walks away kind of sad. You wonder, like, do these guys sort of tolerate this guitarist dressing up as a clown because he thinks he's a clown? Does he sort of do juggling or something when they're trying to have a proper conversation? And did at any point, did Alex Harvey say to him, "You're not a clown"? I don't know. He is a pretty impressive guitarist though. He's got a name, Sal something. Check this out. Really good. See if you can hear the Bon Scott reference that I talked about. Definitely going to follow up. I think, in fact, these bands, not only are they sort of listed as being glam rock from the beginning, other albums that come after, apparently they're quite proggy too. So I've got quite a strong feeling that I'm going to really sink my teeth into this band and probably pursue all of their records, at least the studio LPs. I really like this, and I think I'm probably going to like a lot of their other music. Next album I'm going to show on the, well, staying on the glam rock theme, I guess, is this. This is Welcome to My Nightmare by Alice Cooper. It's the first album Alice Cooper released as, as becoming the avatar Alice Cooper. It's not his name, but it was the band name, but he released this as becoming Alice Cooper, and it's the first one where it's just him, not the band. I had this album years and years ago, and I think I lent it to a friend. You know how that used to happen before, and I just didn't get it back. It's on Anchor. See if I can show that label. There we go. this summer. I think I've mentioned that before. And he took me to a place where he goes shopping in his local town in Bangor, North Wales, a place called Relics. And they've got a fairly good sort of upstairs selection where they have different types of media for sale and things. And they had a few records up there. And this one that I'm going to show you now was actually propped up on a shelf. And I saw it, and I've recently seen a couple of people show this on the VC. In fact, this is actually a record that I've seen quite often on the VC. And yeah, it wasn't cheap. I don't often spend out, you know, too much money on records, but this one was, you know, in reasonably good shape. It's an original, and I thought to myself, well, how often am I actually going to see that in front of me, like a real copy? So I splashed out, and I was on holiday at the time. I had a little bit of holiday money to spend, and I actually bought quite a few records. Well, a few, I mean a handful of records from that place on the day that I met up with Sean. And so this one was a little holiday treat for myself, if you like. I'm not going to do a niggle drop with this because I just think, you know, a lot of people will be familiar with it. You know, I think it's quite sought after and collectible. People like it so much that they've got copies of it. But I will say this, that I've just recently found another album by the Groundhogs, just last week in fact, at a car boot sale, where I spent a lot less on that than what I did on this. I'm not going to show it this video, but I'll follow up some other time and make the connection. At the same place as I bought my Alex Harvey band record, I bought this car boot sale. Was all over to find this again. I mean, this is a record I've been wanting to sort of get. I've always sort of held off a little bit with Wishbone Ash because for me they're a difficult band in that they're not a progressive rock band, but there is something a bit more special to them than just a regular rock band, aren't there? Iron Maiden often quote them as being sort of an influence on them, for instance. And I've got it on CD, never been able to get into this album. But playing it on vinyl makes all the difference. You know, I don't care what anyone says. Hearing the record is so much better than just hearing it on CD. You get sort of pulled into it so much more easier. I think I spent £4 on this, which is pretty good going. I was with my youngest son, Dylan, and he was saying, is that a Star Wars record? I said, no, it's not. And I looked and I could see, all right, he thinks that's Darth Vader. And he said, well, why's it got the Death Star on the back then? I'd never noticed that before, but yeah, lo and behold, there's the flying saucer. Not quite the Death Star, but I could see what he was getting at. So, yeah, that was a really excellent find. Chuffed to bits of that, and I really am enjoying that record. Here's a record I bought on Discogs. Quite fancied another step onto the ladder of 10 years after. I've got one or two of the records and I do enjoy them. I'm always interested to find out a little bit more about Alvin Lee and his guitar playing. And look at that amazing inner gatefold. That's a pretty cool picture. Quite a psychedelic cover actually, isn't it? It's a cool record. is an interesting record. This is another one that I found at car boot sale. Paid probably £1 for it. It's a disco mix, or disco club mix of Sweet. It's not bad actually. I mean, it's a bit of a novelty record, I will give you that. But it's an EP, so it's a 12-inch, so it's not an album or anything like that. It is, you know, it plays at 45 RPM, and it's a bit like, what would you say, like the Status Quo medley. It's a bit like a Sweet medley done to a, you know, a dance beat, and well, one side's a bit better than the other, but it's an interesting. I quite enjoyed it. It released in '85, which is quite late for the Sweet, isn't it? I mean, they'd kind of been done and dusted by then, way before then, I would have said. I do know they were quite eager to try and get back into the fold, but they never really managed it, did they? Yeah, quite a nice little pickup. This is another one that I bought back from the car boot sale, again, £3, chuffed to bits of this. Neil Young, I think, I could be wrong, but I think I saw somebody show this recently on their channel. There's a relatively new channel, a guy lives down in Southampton, can't think of his name right now. I think he showed this, and if I remember rightly, he spent a lot more money than I did. I mean, £3 for this is a great record. It's the inner sleeve. You know, sometimes it's just a matter of being in the right time at the right place and stumbling upon, you know, either sort of people that have, you know, stopped listening to their records long ago because they got into CDs or whatever, and they just don't see the value of keeping things like this, or it's parents whose kids have gone off to university and they're kind of clearing out their room and selling off their record collection, which they probably stopped listening to a long time ago, that sort of thing. But that's brilliant. I've really been enjoying this. Again, Neil Young isn't really someone that I know much about. I really like Harvest, one of my top all-time records, I'd say. And this could well become as interesting to me as that. This is the other expensive record I splashed out on when I met up with Sean Whelan in Bangor. I got a sense about it. There's something about it, I thought to myself, I don't know what that is. It looks unusual. And I thought, well, I'll splash out with my holiday money. So the artists are Marvin, Welch and Farrar, and the album's called Second Opinion. And I thought, is that, you know, is it going to be good? There's not much to tell really. I guess a lot of people might have whipped out their mobile phone and looked it up, that sort of thing, but I don't have a mobile phone, so I don't do that. And I thought, well, I'll take a punt. It was, I think I was paid about £10 for it, which isn't bad, and it's, you know, it's okay condition. It has the liner notes and lyrics on a separate piece of paper. It's come out in 1971. And I listened to it, and like you do, you know, I read up about it while I was listening to it, and then I kind of smiled. Alright, so it's on Regal Zonophone. So, the name of the band, Marvin, Welch and Farrar. I don't know who the other two guys are, but the Marvin is, drum roll, Hank Marvin, who we all know from The Shadows. And interestingly on this, I don't know how much he did with this band, I don't think he did that much, but interestingly it's another side to his playing. I would even point to, you know, sort of George Harrison solo style a little bit. before George Harrison had a solo style. It feels kind of a slight Beatles-esque sound to this, coming from the guitar. I should imagine that, it's my speculation, but I think Hank was probably hankering to just try a different style of music perhaps in the early 70s, far from what he'd been doing with the Shadows. A nice little treat. I don't know if I'll be looking for any of their other records, but I quite enjoyed listening to this. See what you think. Here's records by Rory Gallagher. I picked this one up in a antiques mall. Just really, looking to sort of fill out my Rory Gallagher collection. I don't have many of his records, although I've probably got about 4 or 5 now. I'm just trying to get to know him so much better, This is very much blues rock. There aren't many tracks on here that aren't the sort of the standard 12-bar blues. And who was it? Somebody, I think Steve Flipside, was very keen to kind of point out how Rory Gallagher had been spoken about by Jimi Hendrix as being a great guitar player. So I'm all the time sort of listening out to, so what was it that Hendrix was hearing, What was it that impressed Hendrix? And, I haven't quite got there yet, but not a bad record. Good one to have the collection. See what you think of this. Bad Company. I haven't got a clue where I bought this from, but I only spent a £5 on it because it says it on the back. I just don't have any memory of it. I think I'm just filling the holes really now with Bad Company. Yeah, what can I say about Bad Company? I struggle with them, I must admit. Like I say, I've probably got most of their records now, if not all of them. This was a gap, and it was a very nice, clean copy, and it was cheap, so I grabbed it. Paul Rogers looking young there with his long hair still. I don't know. I wonder sometimes if it's ever gonna really hit home with Bad Company. Paul Rogers, isn't he? He's often sort of held up and regarded as one of the great sort of British blues rock vocalists and things. And I guess he has his moments. I just feel, I don't know. I just don't. It just doesn't appeal to me, I suppose. I'd much rather listen to David Coverdale, for instance. I think rings around Paul Rogers. That's my view. But yeah, if there's anyone out there that has advice to someone trying to get their head into Bad Company, then please give me suggestions. Give me what I should try listening to, and point out what is so great about their music. I know they had one or two really good hits, didn't they? But there must be more to them than that. I just haven't found it. Now, the last album I'm going to show is this. A while ago, in the spring, or sort of towards the end of the winter, I went through a really cool phase of listening to Humble Pie. Mainly because I really like the vocals of Steve Marriott. Steve Marriott he was so cool. He really was, and a fantastic musician. And so I had this realization, this aha moment, where I realized that Humble Pie are also what the faces are to the Small Faces. The Faces basically were the continuation of Small Faces, joined by Rod Stewart, Ronnie Wood, and sort of they became a really good rock band. Well, essentially, Humble Pie, put together by Steve Marriott with the guitarist Peter Frampton. And once I kind of had that realization, I really wanted to hear. And I've often heard it said, that Humble Pie really are one of the main roots for the Black Crowes. Once you know that and you listen to the Black Crowes, you can hear Humble Pie. You can also hear the faces in it, but you can hear particularly Humble Pie. And I thought to myself, I really should acquaint myself much more with Peter Frampton. And so I ordered this on Discogs, and lo and behold, it's a really good record. There's one or two more of his that I'm definitely going to try and look out for and get hold of. I'll do a little needle drop of this because I think you've got to hear this. It's a really nice record, really sort of high quality songwriting, and beautifully played. Got that real sort of 70s rock thing about it too, which we all like so much. So I'll spin this one too for you. Knocking Okay, everybody, thank you very much. I would like to say thanks to everybody watching, and hope everyone's doing okay. Check out my next video. Thanks, bye.